Alright, I'm here to make a video, and this video is my message to black people, black America. Alright? So I don't speak, I'm telling you this right now, I don't speak for any racial, ethnic, or political view. I'm telling you, I'm speaking for myself, okay? Doberman philosopher. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share with you my own perspective, but it's a perspective that I think is shared, that I'm going to share to you, is something that's not, that most people of my complexion, because I'm ostensibly a white male, will not tell you or will not speak openly about because of fear of being called a racist. So I'm going to take the gloves off and speak to you openly and candidly. Okay? Obviously, in this society, America, we have a less than perfect history. And less than perfect history that is particularly applies to when we talk about race. But and I'm not denying that racism doesn't still exist. But to make a fallacy that somehow all the problems in the black community stem from white racism or systematic racism is just not true. There are instances where it can be, redlining, for instance, or banks not giving loans to potential homeowners in predominantly black neighborhoods. This is true. So when there is racism, let's talk about it and let's call it out for what it is. But at the same time, and this is why race relations are getting worse, is because, and I don't fully blame black America for this, I really blame white liberals for it more so, is that the rules of conversation, the rules of dialogue in this country are such that they're asymmetrical, meaning in this context, black people are impervious to criticism. They cannot be ever judged or criticized for behavior or for lack of achievement or crime or anything. And that also, black people have carte blanche, just total free will, can criticize white people, and that white people just have to sit here and take it on the chin. And so essentially, you have, and not only that, but that if any white person says anything critical about black people, whether it's factual or not, they're racist. And that ends the debate. And that is a tactic that the liberals use. That's a tactic that white liberals use in particular to silence anybody that they don't agree with. And it's in logic, it's called an ad hominem attack. And that is when you attack somebody's character as opposed to attacking their argument. And it is a very common mistake, especially for people who don't have very good debating skills and who are poor litigators or anything like that. And so what we find here is that this is really in becoming ubiquitous in society. Okay, is that we have one group that has the privilege of maligning the other, and then the other one cannot say anything in defense of itself. And what happens is that communication is what's going to heal race relations. But when one side can't communicate and has to feel like if they say anything critical, they're going to be labeled a racist, you don't have communication. What you have is you're going to create more division. You're going to create more hostility, and you're going to further the amount of misunderstanding. And what we really need is communication. What we need is for white people to share their concerns about Black America, and Black America needs to share their concerns about white America. But if only one can criticize the other and the other cannot and the other one cannot criticize the former, then you have a breakdown in communication. That's what's happening. So, most of my friends are really of all different backgrounds, really. But being a white person, even though I'm do have Hispanic heritage, I'm still ostensibly a white person. Okay, because Hispanic also is just a heritage. It's not a race. Most people, and I would say 99% of people that I've met, are not racist. Okay? I have met racist people. No doubt about it. But most people that I've met, the overwhelmingly majority of them are not full-fledged racists. Full-fledged racists, I should say. What most people, and myself included, have gathered, well, you know what? I'm just going to speak for myself. I hold no contempt against the Black community on the color of their skin, hair texture, the food they eat, the style of clothes they choose to wear, their names, or anything that pertains to any of that. What I object to is behavior. Now, I'm not saying this about all Black people. I would never malign an entire group. That's totally out of my character. But there are behaviors that I have found to be more prevalent in the Black community as opposed to other communities, and I think that this is a sentiment that is much more pervasive and that a lot of white people don't want to talk about because they're afraid of being called a racist, and so they don't say anything when this is what they're thinking. What I'm telling you guys right now is what a lot of white people are thinking that are just too chicken shit to say it. Whenever I go to an inner city neighborhood, I see trash everywhere. Filth everywhere. I see gunshots. Now that's not to say that okay, if I went to East LA, it wouldn't be Mexican people doing that, or some trailer park in 8 Mile wouldn't be white people doing it, but we're talking about Black people here, okay? We're not talking about Mexicans. We're not talking about, for the lack of a better word, white trash. We're talking about the Black community. And this is not just inner cities. This is, if I look at a suburb and typically when I go to the Black section of it, there's more trash. I look at the lawns, I look at the houses. There's a difference. Now, I know you don't like to hear this, and I don't like to tell you this. And I'm telling you this because I believe you are equal. In fact, I know you're equal because you're a human being. How could you not be equal? There's nothing a white person can do that a black person cannot do. There's nothing a white person can do that a black person cannot do either. So I'm not questioning whether or not you're equal in terms of your race. I think you are racially equal to me. I think you are just as capable. What I am objecting to is behavior. Sorry about that. I live in an area that's pretty mixed. And, however, the clubs around here are 99% of the people that go to them are black. And every single weekend, I walk out of my apartment Saturday morning and there's trash everywhere. Now, obviously, that does not pertain to all black people or most black people. I don't know the percentage, but I am telling you that that kind of behavior I find more prevalent amongst blacks than I do Asians. And why is that? It's because of behavior. I'm not hating on you. I'm not discriminating against you because you are a black person. I'm discriminating against you because of the behavior. When I walk down the street and I see two black men whose pants are hanging off their waist and I can see they're under boxer shorts, I don't see a lot of Arabs doing that. I don't see a lot of, Indians doing that. It makes me not take you seriously. It makes me think there's something wrong with you. It makes me think that you want me to think you're a fool. Again, I don't like that to keep saying this, but just so I remain clear, I'm not saying that's all black people. I know it's not. But I'm telling you, this is how you are being perceived. When it's 1:30 in the morning and it's a Tuesday night and you're dropping off your girlfriend and you're blasting rap music so that the whole fucking street can hear it, what do you think that makes me feel? It makes me not want you around. It makes me want to put barriers that you cannot enter my neighborhood because you are a nuisance. I'm sorry, but I don't really find a lot of Asian people doing that at 1:30 in the morning on a Tuesday night. I don't find, a lot of Hispanics doing that. I don't find white people doing it. I find black people doing that. Not all black people, but when I find someone doing it, they tend to be black. The reason I'm telling you this is because up until I was 9 years old, I did not have a non-black friend. I was the only person of my skin complexion in an all-black school. And I got to be really, really close with these people. These were my brothers. These were my sisters. I would do anything for these kids. And so I feel really like an obligation to be honest with black people, to help you see how you're being perceived by others from an actual white person. Instead of some, other black person trying to tell you this and then you flipping out on them and thinking they're a sellout. I am the white man. I am a white male. I am telling you, this is what no white male will ever tell you. Because they're afraid. Because they're pussies. They don't want to be called a racist. I don't fucking care. Because I know that if anybody actually takes the time to watch this video, they will see that this is far from a racist video. You can pinpoint and make little arguments about things I say, but I think that it's pertinently clear to people who watch this video what my intentions for this are. If I'm living in an apartment complex, it's 2 a.m, and I'm hearing, it's a weekday, and I smell marijuana, and I hear loud noising, and I hear arguments going on. Sure, there's white people that do that. We call them white trash. And we don't want them around either, but all too often, it's not an Arab family doing this. It's not a Jewish family doing this. It's not a Chinese family. It's black people doing this. Now again, this is not to say that all black people do this. This is not to say that other people do this as well. When I see somebody at the grocery store who's using a food stamp card, and then I walk outside and I see they've got an Escalade with $2,000, whatever, $3,000 rims on their cars. How is that supposed to make me think? Is that supposed to make me... What would you think? And, when I look at statistics and I say, black men make up 6.5% of the country, and they're committing 48% of violent crimes. Coupled with all the aforementioned things I've said, I am weary about living around black people. And it's a shame because it shouldn't be that way. I believe Martin Luther King is correct when he says you should judge a man by the content of his character, not the color of his skin. I'm all for that. But when you fail to see that it's the behaviors that too many black people are doing that is making the whole group look bad for all the black people who don't behave like this and who don't do any of the aforementioned things, you need to look, and instead of blaming the police or blaming the white man or blaming the Jews or blaming institutionalized racism, you need to look at, is the fact that 74% of black children are born into a house without a father the white man's fault? Well, maybe it is if you actually are a liberal. Because you look at Lyndon Baines Johnson, Great Society, instituted the welfare system, and that incentivized black women, because there's a caveat in it that you would get the government would write you a check if the man was not in the home. So it incentivized the breakdown of the black family. And that was done by the Democrats, who 98% of black people voted for Barack Obama. I really wonder why that is. Right? And that's another thing. Like, you want to say you're against racism, yet you vote for a president based on the color of his skin. Because I can tell you this, there's never been an election. I mean, in that election, against McCain, there's not 98% of white people who voted for McCain. There's not 98% of white people who voted for Romney. Okay? So, again, ask yourself these questions. If you're black right now, I want you to ask yourself, I want you to look around and say, maybe these are some of the things that you guys should be asking yourselves instead of just blaming everything on white people. All right? Is it white people's fault? Is it institutionalized racism that accounts for the fact that now I will say this. Every race, when you're talking about murders, are victims overwhelmingly by members of the same race. Okay, so more white people get murdered by white people than any other race. More Hispanics get murdered by Hispanics. More blacks get murdered by blacks. That's an undeniable fact. I'm not going to dispute that. That's absolutely true. However, the leading cause of death for white males aged 18 to 35 is not death by murder of other white men. Meaning that the leading cause of death for white men aged 18 to 35 is not murder by other white men, not white on white crime. Leading cause of death for Hispanic, Asian, Arab, Indian, leading cause of death for all those races for men for those respective groups aged 18 to 35 is not murder by the same race. However, in the black community, males aged from 18 to 35, the leading cause of death is murder by other black men, meaning that you're much more likely to get killed by another black man than you are by a police officer, let alone a white person. Okay? So again, obviously what happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Eric Garner was deplorable. And there are not words enough. There are not words that are even in existence to describe how horrible the situations were. But to use that as a justification of why your community has not prospered the way in which you think it should have is just, it's irresponsible. It's just not true. And that mentality will keep you suffering. It's called a victim mentality. And you're also empowering this white man that you choose, that you don't like. You're empowering this white man as if he's just some mythical, all-powerful, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent being that just cannot be overcome, right? Which, leads me to my next thing is that, you need to stop. You need to call these people out who make up falsities about black people within the black community, such as the Black Hebrew Israelites and the Nation of Islam. Black people are not the descendants of Hebrews. They were not the descendants of great pharaohs and kings. They are what they are. Okay? They were descendants from slaves who were sold into slavery by other black people. It's a fucking fact. If you don't like it, sorry, tough shit. That's what it is. That's history. Again, it's horrible, but that's the facts. So stop trying to say that you're the real Jews, or you're the tribe of Shabazz, and that, you know, you're the real Muslims. It's bullshit. By the way, the Arabs were enslaving black people far before the Europeans ever got there. So how stupid is that to believe in Louis, you know, fucking Farrakhan talking about the Nation of Islam when he's trying promulgating to you guys the idea of following Islam, which is a religion of Arabs who were the first people to enslave you before the Europeans even got there. Makes no sense. Again, blaming the white man, blaming the police, blaming the Jews when you don't look at your leaders who are feeding you a line of bullshit. Okay? Black Hebrew Israelites. Black Hebrew Israelites are, and again, I know this is a very small faction within the black community. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that this is a prevalent thing, but I do need to make mention of it because you watch my former videos, it is becoming more widespread in the black community, which is troubling, because we're already so racially divided, and things like Black Hebrew Israelites are just going to like exacerbate that. So, you know, like I said, black people, obviously anyone who has any sort of, you know, done any real studying of ancient Middle Eastern history knows that Jews come from the Middle East. Okay? I don't need to go into the whole antiquity of it. I've made videos about that, but black people are descended from slaves who, again, it's a horrible history, but they were sold into slavery. They were sold to the white man by other black people. And they experienced, and that's who their ancestors were. They're not Jews. They're not descended from the Jews. They're not descended from this tribe of Shabazz. It's all bullshit. It's all, and the reason that Farrakhan and Black Hebrew Israelites do that is because they feel a sense of inferiority, and they need to, you know, divulge a fictitious narrative of history to make themselves feel better. You know, it's a pacifier for them, but you know, it just makes other people think you're a fucking idiot. Makes people think you're really stupid when you're not. When you're better than that, and that's why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this so that you can combat this, so that because the real people who are racist will use all this against you in a different way than I am. I'm being that good friend who's being constructively critical to you so that you can take a look at yourself and do better. And I'm telling you also that the people who are racist will use this to legitimize their own racism. I am not attributing this to your race. I'm not saying that this is indicative of your genetics, your inherent blackness. No, I'm saying this is behavior that you can change. You can change this behavior. You can alter this if you realize how problematic it is and how dysfunctional it is. Now it's perpetuating your dysfunction as a culture, as a people, that I know people like Candace Owens and Alan West and, you know, and countless others have tried to elucidate to you, but, you know, and again, calling these people Uncle Toms and sellouts is you're biting the hand that's feeding. You're destroying the messenger who's out of the goodness of their hearts trying to do right by their people, and you know, this is what happens. So why am I really doing this? I'm doing this because I have in my own life personal friendships with black people that I'm very fond of and that I cherish. And we've had these discussions. And one thing that I could really take away from a lot of my personal friendships is that I asked him, I said, you know, what do you believe is the biggest problem in the black community? And a lot of my friends would tell me it's pandering to black people. It's this guilt, this white guilt. We have to accommodate you. You know, it's everything's our fault. You can say whatever you want to us and we'll just sit there and take it. And that is emasculating to black people. It's insulting to black people that they need they need white people's sympathy. How fucking disgusting are you? How insulting are you, you white fucking liberal, that you think that your pathetic fucking guilt, your pathetic, your pity, you pity these people, and you are conflating that. You're conflating pity with sympathy and compassion, and don't have compassion, you don't have sympathy, you have pity, because deep down it's the white liberal who thinks that you are racially inferior and that you are dependent on him to tell you how to think and how to behave and how to vote and how to think and how to live. And they're the fucking racists, because they're the ones who do not think that you are capable of ever creating change for yourself, and that they need to tell you what to do. They need to tell you how to think. You need to see who the real fucking enemy is, and it's not the fucking police officer. It's not Alan West. It's not, Ben Carson. It's not Candace Owens. It's fucking Louis Farrakhan. It's the black Hebrew Israelites. It's the white fucking liberal. And it's Al Sharpton and Messi Jackson and Elijah Cumstain down there in Baltimore. All right, take Baltimore. Your congressman's black. He's been there for 35 fucking years. Hasn't done a goddamn thing to help your people. The police chief was black. The whole police force was mostly minority. The mayor was black. And oh, well, wouldn't you know, it's a fucking war zone there. And your Freddie Gray got gunned down. Did they ever bother to tell you that the fucking police chief was black? Oh, when Eric Garner got, and by the way, what happened to him was absolutely fucking abysmal. It was horrible by the police. And they should be fucking held accountable for their despicable acts towards that guy. But you know what? Did they ever bother to tell you that the commanding officer was a black female in that? Because see, once you start to see this, these are just a few examples. I can go into more, but this'll suffice. You begin to see that this narrative of, white people, and it's all white conservative